I'm Keith Middleton, co-founder and co-managing partner of Fahrenheit Advisors. Our longtime client, CarLotz, is on the move. It recently was listed on the NASDAQ, as well as opening several locations across the United States. From providing fractional accounting and search services in the early years to consulting around its most recent transaction, the Fahrenheit team of finance, human capital, and search experts has been along for its growth. Recently, my colleague Jay Carpenter sat down with CEO Mike Bohr to talk about the journey of CarLotz, its plans for the future, and what's next for this innovative company. Congratulations to the entire CarLotz team.
Hey everyone, Jay Carpenter, Fahrenheit Advisors here with some of our leadership series continuation, and I'm here with a familiar face to a lot of you. You've seen him on CNBC and all over the news and the newspapers, and we're very fortunate to have Mike Bohr, co-founder, chairman of the board, CEO of CarLotz. Mike, thank you so much for being on. Tell us about the last 2 months. I know it's been a wild time in a good way for you.
Yeah, thanks, Jay. Good to be chatting with you. The last 2 months have been nuts. You know, we went through a period last year that was super intense as we were, getting the process going to merge with a special purpose acquisition company, or Spac, which we did as of January 21st of this year. And so there was this just super intense period of, getting the deal done and speaking to new investors and getting people on board and really kind of articulating the story to so many people in the investment community. That was actually a lot of fun, but just very intense. And then, then we closed on January 21st and we had like 10 minutes to go have dinner and celebrate. And then it was like, okay, now we've got this, very ambitious growth plan that we need to go and execute. And obviously the people, within the company had been thinking through the execution and starting on it. But, it was about a 10-minute celebration and then foot back on the gas. And so it's been a really fun few months as we've really started to, kind of execute to our full potential with the capital that this transaction has delivered to us. And so, we've been building this company for 10 years and then all of a sudden we have 10 times as much capital as we've raised since the beginning of the company to go and really execute it with the intensity that, we think this business model was meant to grow under.
That's phenomenal, and congratulations. You mentioned the term SPAC, and I feel like if you're on the perimeter of the financial world, if you don't come to the banking world, that's a term that has come hot and heavy in the last couple of years. It's really taken off. Talk to us about that experience briefly, what that was like with Akamar, how that came about, and kind of good, bads, and uglies, if you will.
Yeah, so the concept of a SPAC has been around for years. It used to be a way, kind of a backdoor way to get an IPO done. So for companies that, maybe weren't ready or needed to be public for liquidity reasons, for some reason or another, very closely held businesses. But it was kind of like like a lesser respected way to go public. And I think within the last couple of years, as people have identified some of the real benefits of a SPAC, the transparency of it all, the opportunity to partner with, very impressive investors who form these SPACs, the ability to raise more capital than a traditional IPO would allow you to. I think a lot of businesses have really found it to be a more attractive option to approach the public markets. So the way it generally works is a team of investment professionals. Typically they have very acute knowledge of a sector or a type of investing. They'll go out to the public markets and they'll say, hey, public company investors, we want to raise $300 million. And with that money, we're going to go find a business to buy. And then you, the investor, will ultimately get the chance to either say yes to the acquisition that we find, or no, you want your money back. So it's kind of a free option on a one-off deal for the investor. And so the investors put in their $300 million. The SPAC then has $300 million plus a little bit of their own capital that they put in, and they go and they interview companies essentially to go and potentially merge with. And once they find a business that matches their specialty of investing or their industry expertise, then they will go and go back to the investors and say, hey, we're going to buy this company. In our case, it was Akamar was the Spac. And they're saying, we're going to go merge with this company called CarLotz. We want you to get to know them. And so we spent some time getting to know the initial Spac investors. And then we go and we start talking to the real public markets investors who we ultimately need to buy into the story and begin to accumulate a position. So we spend several weeks, talking to general public markets investors to tell them about our business. Then, as you approach closing date, all the investors basically say, okay, do we want to own this business or do we not? And if they don't want to own the business, they can what's called redeem their Spac investment, and they can just get their money back plus a little bit of interest. And if they like the story, then they keep their money in, and the money turns into shares in the company that's merging. So in some cases, redemption percentages can be 80, 90%, and the deal can fall apart. In some cases, it's reasonable. It's a 20, 30% redemption, but the deal can still happen. It's just that there's a little bit less cash to merge with the company. And in our case, we had, I think it rounded to 0 redemptions, which was great for us, great for all the investors. And as of January 21st, we began trading as LOTZ on the NASDAQ.
Yeah. And you all were killing it in 2020. So the story you had to tell us was an easy one. So you have the number side, you're CEO, chairman of the board. We talked a little bit about communication a year ago, almost exactly. We were talking to the men's basketball coach at VCU, Mike Rhodes, and he had to deliver the news to his team. They weren't going to be playing in the tournament. Trying to spin it, in the positive almost a year later, you have this phenomenal news. So you have to tell the story to your team that's growing and expanding. Talk to us a little bit about your communication style. I'm sure there's the things you wanted to tell because it was exciting, right? And life-changing in some regards. So talk to us a little bit about how you do that as kind of the top dog down to a spread out organization.
Yeah, I mean, communication over the years has changed dramatically for us. Obviously 10 years ago when we all worked out of the hub, we would yell across the room and say, hey, Justin, what do you think we should do about this one problem? And then over time, we opened additional locations. And so we would have, a Thursday night meetup at a bar to talk about some of the things we wanted to talk about. And then obviously we started getting bigger and bigger, and we started relying on technology. And, initially it was email communications. And over time, we found the town hall to be the video town hall to be a very productive way. Actually, before the video town hall, I used to, shoot videos and then share them through our systems. And then we found the video town hall to be a really productive way to communicate because it enables people to ask questions in a way that's comfortable for them. Sometimes people don't want to, raise their hand or hear their voice amongst 200 people, many of whom they don't know, but they get to type in questions if they want. They get to raise their hand if they want, or just speak up. And so it's a great way for, communication to be bilateral, but it's also a great way to communicate big things, big news events. We've also begun to use, we use Teams, and so we use different channels to communicate the welcoming of new people, the announcements of new locations. And obviously, since over the last several months at least, there's just been a ton of really exciting news that gets the team very fired up. The greatest of which was the day that we announced that we were, going to be a public company the following morning, and what that meant for everybody. And so we've definitely, probably had the opposite of what Coach Rhodes, had last year. But last year we went through exactly what Coach Rhodes went through, and it was brutal, and it was, emotionally taxing for everybody. Most of the team, felt what was going on last year in a big way, and ultimately persevered through it, showed a tremendous amount of tenacity, and we're just super proud of this team that we have, that we've built, that we've grown over time. Sorry, my lights went off, and I need to move around more, and when talking to you, so the lights don't go off. Now communication is a big deal. Like, we want to make sure everybody understands, what's going on, where we're headed, what the strategy is, what we're up to, and all the exciting events that are happening with the company.
No, that's great. Thanks for sharing. You mentioned the hub. remember visiting, it's been a long time ago, down the Franklin Street office, now the Manchester office. Are you allowed to share? Is there any, as you expand in different geographic areas or around Richmond, can you tell us about where you're going next and what that looks like?
Yeah, so we've got a plan that we've announced where we'll be opening 14 to 16 new locations this year. We've already opened in Seattle. We've opened in Orlando. We started with our 3 Virginia locations, 2 in the Richmond area, 1 in Chesapeake. We have locations in Greensboro and Charlotte, and then in Tampa, Chicago, and San Antonio. Earlier this year, we opened in Seattle and we opened in Orlando. And we've announced that later this month we'll be opening in Nashville, and sometime in Q2 we'll be opening in Charlottesville, which is very exciting. Another Virginia location, and obviously many more to come. We've got 14 to 16 total this year, so we'll have a lot of announcements, and then also our headquarters space is getting a little tight, so we'll very likely have some announcements on where we'll be moving as a team to just spread our wings a little bit more. So, yeah, a lot of moving around, a lot of moving parts, and then also we have a bunch of folks who now, as a result of just how business in general has started to work over the last year, we have a lot of people who are working remotely, and we spend a lot of time on Teams and video chatting with each other, and so I think we're growing. We're over 200 people now. We're growing a lot, so we need more space, but we're also being very efficient with our use of technology and where people can work from.
Yeah, I didn't know if you were going to spread any news, break the news here. I have to have a special sound effect for the HQ. You said getting tight, the special news, breaking alert. That's not my job, but no, that sounds phenomenal. Mike Bohr has had probably the best 2021 that out of most of us watching this video, but great Richmond story with CarLotz. Go read about him if you haven't heard about him. The team's expanding. Really appreciate you being a friend of the Fahrenheit family and being on with us, and continued success, this huge wave, and we'll hopefully talk to you soon. Thanks, Mike.
Thanks, Jay.